I paid my sister's bill for years, believing it was only temporary. When I finally stopped and told her to get a job, she made a scene and my mother told me to apologize for provoking her. I, 28 male, will set the stage for you. My sister Ruth is 24 and she's been a professional leech since she turned 18. It started small like they always do. Ruth's car breaks down sophomore year of college. Can I spot her $400 for repairs? Sure. She can't make rent because she blew her grocery money at some music festival. Can I cover $800? Fine. Her laptop dies during finals week. Can I buy her a new MacBook? Okay. Family helps family, right? Wrong. Every crisis was positioned as temporary. Every request came with promises she'd pay me back as soon as things got better. But things never got better because Ruth's definition of crisis was fluid as hell. Spring break trip got too expensive. Crisis. Wanted to go to Coachella but didn't budget for it? Crisis. Her friends were all getting their nails done and she felt left out. You guessed it, crisis. What really got me was how she'd weaponize family guilt. I guess I'll just have to skip Ella's wedding because I can't afford a dress. Never mind that Ella's wedding was 3 months away and she'd had plenty of time to save. It was always my fault she couldn't participate in normal adult activities. Ruth had turned financial irresponsibility into an art form. By year 6, I was basically subsidizing her entire lifestyle: rent, car payments, insurance, groceries, textbooks. She never opened bar tabs, Uber rides, random emergencies that always seemed to happen right before she wanted to go somewhere expensive. Conservative estimate, I'd blown through $40,000 keeping Princess Ruth afloat. The worst part wasn't even the money, it was watching her social media. While I was living off ramen and coffee grinding 16-hour days, Ruth was posting Instagram stories from bottomless brunch beach trips and designer boutiques, always tagged with quotes about living your best life and blessed beyond measure, blessed by my freaking bank account. Meanwhile, I was grinding 60-hour weeks at a consulting firm, taking on projects nobody wanted, building a reputation, one brutal client at a time. The consulting world is cutthroat as hell. You're only as good as your last project, and everyone's fighting for the same promotions. I spent 2 years working exclusively with this nightmare pharmaceutical client because nobody else would touch them. 16-hour days, constant travel, dealing with executives who treated consultants like disposable tissues. The breaking point came 8 months ago. Ruth calls me sobbing again about needing money. This time it was $3,200 for a business opportunity. Some MLM her friend Kayla was running essential oils or makeup or whatever the hell these girls convince themselves is entrepreneurship. It's not a pyramid scheme, she insisted through fake tears. It's network marketing. Kayla's making 6 figures. Kayla's making 6 figures by scamming people like you. You don't understand business like I do. This from a girl who'd never held a job longer than 4 months. Her business expertise came from watching Shark Tank reruns. I told her no. First time I'd ever said that word to her. She lost her absolute mind screaming about how I was selfish and had more money than I knew what to do with and how I was abandoning my family. She hung up, then immediately called our parents to tell them I was being cruel and controlling. Mom called me an hour later. Your sister just needs some support right now. Can't you help her this once? Mom, I've been helping her for 6 years. She's still finding herself at 24. Still finding herself while I was finding ways to pay both our student loans. That's when I knew I was dealing with professional enablers, not parents. Around this time, I met Sloane at a work conference. She was like a breath of fresh air in a room full of carbon monoxide. Sharp as hell, funny without trying, and completely immune to nonsense. She worked in corporate finance for a mid-size firm downtown. She'd clawed her way up from an entry-level analyst position, working the same brutal hours I was familiar with. Sloane sized up my family situation in about 5 minutes. So you're basically paying for your sister to pretend she's an influencer while you work yourself to death. Yeah, pretty much. And your parents think that's normal? They think it's temporary. Sloane laughed. Babe, nothing's more permanent than temporary family help. She was right. Sloane had her own family horror stories. Her brother had tried to guilt her into co-signing a motorcycle loan 2 years earlier, then flipped out when she refused. The difference was, her parents backed her up instead of enabling him. Boundaries aren't suggestions, she told me one night over dinner. They're requirements for healthy relationships. I was about to learn just how right she was. The promotion came through in July. Senior associate to principal in one jump, plus a $30,000 raise and a corner office. Biggest professional win of my life. The partners made the announcement in the Monday morning meeting, and I watched half the room's faces shift from surprise to barely concealed resentment. The promotion meant leading my own team, picking my own projects, and finally having some control over my schedule. I decided to throw a party, just close friends and family, to celebrate finally making it. Sloan helped me plan everything. She's got this way of making events feel classy without being pretentious. We rented out the back room at Mitchell's, this upscale place downtown that actually had decent food and a real bar. The guest list was my team from work, the partners who'd promoted me, college buddies who'd stuck around through the lean years, people who'd actually supported me. Sloan had this genius idea to make it a roast and toast format. Everyone could share a funny story about my journey to success, then raise a glass. It kept things light but meaningful. She even printed custom cocktail napkins with "Finally Made It" in gold lettering. My best friend Zach showed up early to help set up. Zach doesn't say much, but when things hit the fan, he's the guy you want in your corner. We've been tight since college. He was there when I was eating cereal for dinner and sleeping on a mattress on the floor. He'd also watched the Ruth show unfold over the years. "Your sister coming tonight?" he asked while we arranged chairs. Unfortunately, Sloan knows what she's walking into. She's about to find out. Zach just nodded and kept setting up. See, Ruth hated Sloan from day one. Not because Sloan had done anything to her, but because she represented everything Ruth wasn't: successful independent, not constantly manufacturing drama for attention. Plus, Sloan saw right through Ruth's victim act and didn't pretend otherwise. Sloan's biggest crime: having a functioning spine. Your girlfriend thinks she's better than everyone, Ruth had told me after meeting Sloan the first time. Sloan's never said a word about you. She doesn't have to. I could tell Sloan's existence was somehow a personal attack on Ruth's lifestyle choices. August 12th. Sloan arrived looking incredible in this black dress that somehow managed to be sexy and professional at the same time. She brought a bottle with a custom label. "Congratulations on finally getting what you earned. The woman gets it. How are you feeling?" she asked, adjusting the room's lighting to something more flattering. "Like I can finally breathe." "Good. You've earned that feeling." Guests started filtering in around 7. Good energy, lots of congratulations. People actually seemed happy to be there. Janet brought her husband, who turned out to be funnier than expected. My college roommate David flew in from Portland just for this. The partners showed up fashionably late but stayed longer than required, which was a good sign for future projects. The roast and toast format was perfect. David told the story about me living on 40-cent ramen packets for 6 months while job hunting. Janet shared how I'd handled the pharma client's tantrums with diplomatic professionalism. Zach kept it short but brutal to my boy, who proved that persistence beats privilege every time. For about 2 hours, I thought this might actually go off without drama. Then Ruth walked in. She was drunk. Not tipsy, not had a few full-blown sloppy drunk. Hair a mess, makeup smeared, wearing this skin-tight red dress that screamed, "Look at me," from 3 blocks away. She'd brought her current boyfriend, some wannabe SoundCloud rapper named Tyler, who looked like he'd been smoking weed in the parking lot. Tyler was exactly what you'd expect. Face tattoos, designer clothes he probably couldn't afford, and that dead-eyed look of someone who'd never held a real job. He immediately made a beeline for the bar, like he was planning to drink his way through my celebration budget. Dude looked like he'd been practicing unemployment professionally. The first hour was manageable. Ruth grabbed a drink and sulked in the corner with Tyler, making snide comments just loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Classic attention-seeking behavior that most adults learn to ignore. "Is she always like this?" Sloan's co-worker asked during a conversation about weekend plans. "This is actually her being subtle," I replied. Ruth didn't say congratulations, didn't say hello, just grabbed a drink and posted up near the bar, staring at Sloan like she was planning a murder. The party was going great despite her presence. I was giving a quick speech thanking everyone for coming, talking about how good it felt to finally see years of work pay off. Standard humble brag stuff, but earned. Then Ruth stood up. "Must be nice," she said loud enough for half the room to hear. I stopped talking. "What?" "Must be nice to have everything handed to you while the rest of us struggle." The room went quiet. Sloane's face went from smiling to stone cold in about 2 seconds. Zach set down his drink and took a step closer. Janet looked confused. She knew how hard I'd worked for this promotion. "Ruth, maybe we should." "No, I'm tired of pretending." She was swaying now, pointing her drink at me like a weapon. Mr. Perfect over here with his fancy promotion and his stuck-up girlfriend acting like he earned something when mommy and daddy paid for everything. That was rich coming from someone whose entire adult life had been subsidized by my paychecks. But logic isn't a narcissist's strong suit. That's when Sloane stood up. "Excuse me." Sloane's voice was calm. "Did you just say my boyfriend didn't earn his promotion?" "I said what I said." "Cool. Just wanted to make sure I heard you right before I responded." Sloane turned to address the room like she was giving a presentation. "For anyone who doesn't know, this is Ruth, the sister who's been living off my boyfriend's paycheck for 6 years while he worked 60-hour weeks to put himself through school and build a career, the same sister who called him selfish last month when he wouldn't bankroll her essential oils pyramid scheme." The room was dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. Ruth's face went red. "You don't know what you're talking about, don't I? Should we talk about the car payments, the rent money, the MacBook?" That's when Ruth completely lost it. She threw her drink. She hurled it at the wall behind the bar where it exploded and shattered. Then she grabbed the nearest thing she could find, a decorative vase with flowers, and smashed it on the floor. "Screw all of you," she screamed. "Screw this fake party and your stuck-up girlfriend." Tyler tried to grab her arm. "Babe, maybe we should. Don't touch me." Security was there in 30 seconds. Zach had already moved between Ruth and Sloane, not saying a word, just being a wall. Tyler was trying to drag Ruth toward the exit while she kept screaming, "You think you're so much better than me? You're nothing, nothing." As they hauled her out, she turned and pointed at me. "You'll pay for this." The room was dead silent for about 10 seconds. Then Sloane picked up her glass, took a sip, and said, "Well, that was entertaining. Should we get back to celebrating people who actually accomplish things?" The room erupted in nervous laughter, and somehow the party recovered. But I knew this wasn't over. Ruth doesn't make threats she doesn't plan to follow through on. David came up to me afterward, shaking his head. "Dude, I always thought you were exaggerating about her." "I wish I was. Nothing says family values like a public meltdown at your brother's promotion party." Janet approached me near the end of the night. "Is she always like that?" "That was actually restrained for her." Jesus. "Well, for what it's worth, everyone here knows how hard you've worked. Don't let family drama diminish what you've accomplished." The morning after the party, I woke up to 17 missed calls from my parents and about 30 texts from Ruth ranging from fake apologies to death threats. Sloane was already up making coffee like nothing had happened. "Sleep well?" she asked. "Like a baby. You're great. Nothing helps me sleep like watching entitled people face consequences." I love this woman. The texts from Ruth were a masterclass in manipulation tactics. First came the fake remorse. "I'm so sorry. I was just hurt and confused." Then anger. "You humiliated me in front of everyone." Then threats. "You have no idea what I'm capable of." Then back to fake vulnerability. "I just missed my brother." Cycling through every emotional manipulation technique until something sticks. My parents showed up at 9 a.m. Didn't call first. Just started pounding on the door like the building was on fire. Dad looked embarrassed. Mom looked pissed at me, not Ruth. Nothing says we raised you right like showing up unannounced to defend the family terrorist. "We need to talk," Mom said before I could even say good morning. "About what? About what you're going to do to fix this situation with your sister." Sloane appeared behind me with her coffee mug. "Morning." "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Mom ignored her completely. Ruth is devastated. She feels attacked and humiliated. "She should feel humiliated," I said. "She acted like a psychopath in front of 35 people. She was overwhelmed." "You know how sensitive she is." Sensitive. That's what we were calling public meltdowns now. Dad finally spoke up. "Look, son, we think the best thing would be if you apologized." "Apologized for what?" "For letting your girlfriend attack her like that." Sloane set down her coffee mug with a little too much force. "I'm sorry." "What did I do exactly?" "You provoked her," Mom said. You knew she was emotional, and you made it worse. I stated facts. If facts provoke her, that's not my problem. She's family, Dad said. Sloane's not wrong to say. Sloane smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. You're absolutely right. I'm not family, which means I don't have to pretend her behavior is acceptable or enable her tantrums. That's your job. My parents looked at me like I was supposed to control my girlfriend. I think you should leave, I said. We're not done discussing this, Mom said. Yeah, we are. After they left, I made a decision that was long overdue. I opened my laptop and started cutting financial ties. All of them. First, the credit card I'd given Ruth for emergencies 3 years ago canceled. The customer service rep asked why, and I said the authorized user is no longer authorized. Clean and simple. The rep walked me through the process like she'd done this before. Apparently, family financial breakups are more common than you'd think. She mentioned that the card would be deactivated immediately and any pending charges would be declined. Perfect. Second, the car insurance policy where she was a covered driver removed. This one was trickier. Had to prove I was the primary policy holder and she didn't have any legitimate claim to coverage. The insurance agent was surprisingly helpful once I explained the situation. Their policy was clear. As long as I was the primary holder and she wasn't a spouse, I could remove her immediately. The agent mentioned this would save me about $180 per month, which was a nice bonus. Third, the Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime accounts she'd been using. Changed all the passwords. Also changed the passwords on my HBO Max, Hulu, and Disney Plus accounts. Might as well be thorough. Time to see how much she really valued our relationship when she had to pay for her own entertainment. Next, the automatic transfer I'd set up to help with her rent canceled. The bank rep tried to confirm this was intentional since it had been running for 2 years. Very intentional, I told him. Then I called the student loan servicer and removed myself as the co-signer on her private loans. Took some paperwork, but it was doable since she'd been making payments on time with my money. Within 2 hours, I'd essentially cut off her entire lifestyle. My phone started buzzing immediately. First texts, then calls, then voicemails that got progressively more unhinged. The last one was just her screaming for 3 minutes straight. What the hell is wrong with you? You can't just abandon me like this. I need that money. You're destroying my life. No, sweetheart, I was stopping the destruction of mine. 2 days later, my parents showed up unannounced again. This time, they looked pissed from the moment I opened the door. We need to talk about what you're doing to your sister, Dad said, pushing past me into the apartment. What I'm doing? She destroyed my promotion party and called Sloane a name in front of 35 people. She was emotional, Mom snapped. You know how she gets when she's overwhelmed? She's 24, not 4. Time to stop making excuses. Dad stepped forward. You're being unreasonable. That girl depends on you. That's the problem. It's your responsibility as her older brother. My responsibility ended when she made a scene at my celebration. Mom started her guilt trip routine. We raised you better than this. So what now that you got a promotion, you're acting up? Family takes care of family. You have all this money now and she has nothing. She has nothing because she's never worked for anything. I'm not running a charity, so you're just going to let her suffer. I'm going to let her grow up. They kept pushing, demanding I fix this situation and be the bigger person. When I refused, Dad actually said I was selfish and had forgotten where I came from. I walked to the door and opened it. Get out and don't come back unless you're ready to apologize for enabling her behavior for 6 years. They left, but not quietly. Mom was crying about losing both her children and Dad was muttering about how success had changed me. Success hadn't changed me. It had just given me the financial freedom to stop being everyone else's ATM. That afternoon, the TikTok started. Ruth posted a video of herself crying in her car. Caption, when your family abandons you for speaking the truth. Got about 500 views and a few sympathy comments from girls who didn't know the full story. The next day, story time. How my toxic brother chose his girlfriend over family. 2,000 views. The comment section was split between people calling nonsense and others sharing their own family drama. Day 3, signs your family member is a narcissist. A thread 5,000 views. This one featured her reading from some pop psychology website applying every negative trait to me while conveniently ignoring her own behavior. She was building an audience by turning our family drama into content. Ruth had finally found her calling professional victim with a side hustle and manufactured outrage. Sloan thought it was hilarious. "Oh my God, she's literally monetizing her victim complex," Sloan said, scrolling through the videos. "That's actually kind of impressive. Should I be worried about this? About what? Her telling the internet that you stopped bankrolling her lifestyle? Most people will see right through it." Sloan was right mostly. The comments on Ruth's videos were brutal. Lots of people calling her out for sounding entitled, asking why a 24-year-old couldn't support herself, pointing out the inconsistencies in her story. But some people bought into it. The comment section became an echo chamber of people sharing their own grievances about toxic family members and narcissistic siblings. Ruth was eating up the attention. The TikToks got progressively more unhinged. She started making videos outside our apartment building, posted pictures of our car, started tagging Sloan in posts, calling her a home wrecker and a manipulative name. One video showed her sitting in the parking lot of our building at 2 a.m. crying about how I'd abandoned her. The timestamp proved she'd been stalking our apartment in the middle of the night, but she framed it as her being too heartbroken to sleep. The comments on that one were telling. Half the viewers were calling her out for obvious stalking behavior, while the other half were encouraging her to stand up for herself and not let them intimidate you. "This is getting weird," Zach said when I showed him the videos. "She's escalating. What am I supposed to do?" Zach didn't answer directly. He just said, "I know a guy who handles social media issues." Zach's connections were always vague but effective. 2 days later, Ruth's TikTok account got suspended for harassment and doxing. All her videos disappeared. She had to start over from 0 followers. Well, she knew it was me. The angry voicemails proved it. "You think you can destroy my life? I'll freaking destroy yours." Sloan listened to the voicemail and raised an eyebrow. She's really committed to this villain arc, isn't she? But Ruth didn't take the TikTok shutdown well. Instead of backing off, she doubled down and got creative with her revenge fantasy. It started small. Food deliveries we didn't order showing up at our door. Pizza, Chinese, takeout, grocery deliveries, all cash on delivery, all at random times. Then she escalated. She signed us up for every spam list she could find. Our mailbox got flooded with catalogs, flyers, and promotional junk. She put our apartment up for rent on Craigslist with fake details and my phone number. I got calls at all hours from people wanting to tour the place. The listing described a luxury downtown loft for $800 below market rate, which explained why my phone wouldn't stop ringing. The final straw was when she somehow got Sloan's work email and sent a detailed message to Sloan's boss, claiming Sloan was having an affair with a married client. Complete lies. But Sloan had to sit through an uncomfortable HR meeting to explain that her boyfriend's psychotic sister was trying to sabotage her career. Sloan handled it like a champ. HR sided with her once they saw the pattern of harassment, but I was done playing defense. "You know what? We need a break," I told Sloan that night. "Take a vacation. Clear our heads. Let this cool down." "Where were you thinking, Cabo?" "1 week. Beach drinks, no cell service for Ruth to blow up." Sloan grinned. "Book it." Zach thought we were running away. "You sure that's the move? It's strategic. Let her exhaust herself throwing tantrums at an empty apartment. Plus, Sloan needs a break from this mess." "Fair enough. Want me to keep an eye on things while you're gone?" "Would you already planning on it?" "That's Zach. Doesn't ask questions, just handles business." We left for Cabo on a Thursday morning. Direct flight, beachfront resort, the works. 5-star accommodations, infinity pool, overlooking the ocean room service that didn't come with a side of family drama. For 6 days, we didn't think about Ruth once. Sloan got a tan. I actually relaxed for the first time in months. And we remembered what our relationship was like without a psychotic third party trying to destroy it. "I forgot what it felt like to not be constantly looking over our shoulders," Sloan said on day 3, sipping a margarita that was stronger than it looked. "This is what normal people's relationships are like. Normal people don't have to get restraining orders against their siblings. Sweetheart, normal people don't have siblings like Ruth." We were drinking margaritas on the beach Tuesday afternoon when Sloan's phone buzzed with a text from her friend Ella. You might want to check Instagram. Ruth's having a moment." Sloan opened the app and started laughing. Oh, she's completely lost it now. Ruth had posted a series of Instagram stories outside our apartment building. Pictures of our door, our windows, our parking spot. Captions like "hiding like cowards" and "can't face the truth" and "karma's coming." The timestamps showed she'd been there multiple times over the past week, morning, afternoon, evening, like she was conducting surveillance on an empty apartment. "She's literally stalking our apartment," Sloan said. "That's actually sad. We screenshotted everything and went back to our margaritas. Let her wear herself out. Big mistake. I didn't know things could get worse." We flew back Sunday evening tired but refreshed and ready to deal with whatever tantrum was waiting for us. The Uber dropped us off in front of our building around 9 p.m. That's when we saw the damage. My car, the one I'd worked my ass off to buy, was completely trashed. All 4 tires, slashed windshield, cracked, a word keyed into the driver's side door in letters about 6 inches tall. Someone had poured what looked like motor oil all over the hood. "Holy crap," Sloan said, pulling out her phone to take pictures. The damage was extensive and personal. This wasn't random vandalism. Someone had spent time making sure every surface was screwed up. The keying went deep enough to reach the metal underneath the paint. The windshield crack ran from corner to corner. Even the mirrors were smashed. Our apartment door was worse, completely covered in dried egg, like someone had hurled 24 raw eggs at it. The smell was horrific. Dried egg mixed with week-old heat and humidity creates a stench that could knock a buzzard off a garbage truck. "This is going to cost her," Sloan said, still taking pictures. Ruth had really outdone herself this time. Most people just key cars when they're pissed. She'd gone full Jackson Pollock with breakfast food. "Please tell me we have security cameras in this building." We did. And Ruth was dumb enough to do all of this during daylight hours while looking directly at the cameras. Zach showed up 20 minutes after I called him, took one look at the damage, and said, "Time to end this." The building manager was surprisingly helpful. Turns out Ruth's vandalism spree had kept several tenants awake, and they were pissed. He pulled the security footage immediately and burned it to a DVD. Saturday afternoon, broad daylight, multiple cameras, he said, fast-forwarding through the footage. "Your sister's either incredibly stupid or incredibly confident." The video was beautiful. Crystal clear shots of Ruth and Tyler showing up with supplies like they were planning a home improvement project. Faces visible, license plate, readable audio, picking up Ruth's laughter while she keyed my car. Over an hour of premeditated destruction. 20 minutes destroying the car, another 30 throwing eggs with professional dedication. Tyler looked nervous the whole time, but Ruth was having the time of her life. "She's literally waving at the camera here," the building manager said, pointing at the screen. "Never seen anything this deliberate. Criminal mastermind, my butt." Ruth had the stealth skills of a drunk rhinoceros. Sloan and I went to the police station first thing Monday morning, filed reports for vandalism, harassment, and criminal damage to property. The desk sergeant took one look at the video and said it was pretty cut and dried. Did we want to press full charges? Hell yes, we did. Every single one they could think of, plus a restraining order. The cop walked us through the process. Criminal charges would be filed based on the evidence, and they'd issue a warrant for Ruth's arrest. The restraining order was separate, civil court, different process, but the criminal evidence would support our case. With video this clear, he figured she'd probably take a plea deal since most people don't want to go to trial when there's HD footage of them committing crimes. The restraining order paperwork was filed that afternoon. Meanwhile, I called my insurance company about the car. They took one look at the police report and the security footage and cut me a check for $4,800 in damages. But here's the thing. Insurance companies don't just eat costs like that. They go after whoever caused the damage. The adjuster explained they'd be pursuing subrogation against whoever was responsible. Criminal conviction makes it easier, but the video evidence was solid either way. Ruth was about to get a very expensive lesson in consequences. My parents called Tuesday morning. Mom was crying before I even said hello. The police came to our house. They arrested Ruth. Good. How can you say that she's your sister? She's a criminal who destroyed my property and harassed my girlfriend's employer. We need to talk. Can you please just... I hung up. Sloan was handling the apartment door situation, called a professional cleaning service, documented everything for our renter's insurance claim, took about 50 photos for evidence. How much is this going to cost her? Sloan asked while watching the cleaning crew scrape dried egg off our door. Between the car repairs, my insurance deductible, the door cleaning court costs, and legal fees, probably around $8,000, maybe more if the judge decides to get creative. She smiled. That's a lot of essential oils she'll have to sell. Wednesday afternoon, Zach texted me. Ruth made bail. She's staying at your parents'. Of course, they bailed her out instead of letting her sit in jail and think about what she'd done. My phone started ringing an hour later. Dad this time. Son, we need to meet. This has gone too far. You're right. It went too far when she trashed my car and egged my door. She made a mistake. She committed multiple felonies. There's a difference. Can't we work this out as a family? We're not family anymore. We're plaintiff and defendant. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer to make sure the restraining order paperwork was moving forward. Thursday morning, I got a call from Ruth's public defender. His client wanted to discuss a settlement to avoid trial. Full restitution for damages, plus she'd agree to stay away from us permanently. How much restitution? She was prepared to offer $2,000. I actually laughed. The car damage alone was $4,800. Add the door cleaning, my insurance deductible, emotional distress, and punitive damages, and we were looking at closer to $12,000. That seemed excessive to him, I guess. I told him vandalism and stalking were pretty excessive too. He said he'd call me back. He didn't. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. Sloan and I showed up with our evidence folder, our lawyer, and Zach for moral support. Ruth showed up with my parents. This was about to get interesting. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Family court was exactly as depressing as you'd expect. Ruth sat across the courtroom with my parents and her public defender. She dressed up for the occasion in what I'm pretty sure was Mom's church outfit, trying to look like a responsible adult instead of the unhinged stalker she'd become. The costume change was impressive, but you can't dress up crazy. Our lawyer reviewed all our evidence and had that calm confidence that comes from dealing with crazy people professionally. She told us this was one of the more clear-cut cases she'd seen. The video evidence eliminated any he said, she said arguments. The judge looked tired already, and it wasn't even 9:30. Our lawyer presented the case. The financial harassment, the TikTok stalking, the fake Craigslist ads, the work harassment, the property damage. She had printed screenshots, the security footage queued up on a laptop, and a timeline that made Ruth's escalation pattern crystal clear. The security footage hit hardest. Watching Ruth laugh while she keyed my car, seeing her throw eggs at our door like she was having the time of her life. The judge watched the whole thing without expression. When it finished, he turned his attention to Ruth's public defender, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. The poor bastard tried to argue that Ruth had just acted inappropriately during emotional distress and that our response was disproportionate, but the judge wasn't having it. He cut through the nonsense immediately. He didn't want to hear about her feelings, just whether she disputed the facts. She couldn't really when it was all on video. When the judge called Ruth's name, she stood up looking scared for the first time in months. The judge laid into her about the months-long harassment campaign that had culminated in thousands of dollars in property damage. He asked if she had anything to say before he made his ruling. Ruth gave this pathetic speech about being upset over family issues and making bad choices, claiming she never meant for things to go so far and just wanted her family back. The judge told her straight up she was 24 years old, not a child having a tantrum, but an adult who chose to commit crimes because she didn't like her family members' boundaries. Then came the beautiful part. He granted the permanent restraining order. Ruth was prohibited from contacting, approaching, or coming within 500 feet of us, our residence, our workplaces, or our vehicles. She was also banned from posting about us on social media or any other public platform. Ruth started crying, but the judge wasn't done. He ordered full restitution in the amount of $12,847 to cover property damage, insurance deductibles, legal fees, and court costs. A payment plan could be arranged through the clerk's office. Ruth's sobs got louder. My parents looked like they'd been punched in the stomach. Then he extended the restraining order to include my parents. You've chosen to enable and facilitate your daughter's criminal behavior instead of holding her accountable. Your repeated attempts to contact the petitioner after being asked to stop constitute harassment by proxy. The gavel came down, case closed. Outside the courthouse, my parents tried to approach us, but Zach stepped between us and reminded them they were now legally prohibited from contact. They walked to their car looking defeated and confused. The aftermath was even more satisfying than I'd hoped. Ruth couldn't pay the $12,847 restitution shocker and had to get a real job at GameStop to make the court-ordered $400 monthly payments. She moved back in with my parents permanently. Couldn't afford her own place anymore. Tyler disappeared once the legal bills started piling up. The restraining order changed everything. No more angry texts, surprise visits, or harassment campaigns. For the first time since I was 22, my phone wasn't constantly buzzing with emergencies. The silence was beautiful. My parents tried circumventing the order through relatives, but I shut that down fast. The family tree pruned itself pretty quickly. Zach kept tabs through mutual friends and had some fun sabotaging Ruth's attempts to rebuild her online presence. Every new TikTok account got reported for ban evasion within a week. 6 months later, we moved to a better apartment across town with no forwarding address, great security doorman, parking garage cameras. The best part was watching Ruth's downward spiral through mutual friends. Without my financial support, she had to face reality for the first time in her adult life. Real job, real bills, real consequences. The essential oils business never materialized. Turns out you need money to lose money in MLM schemes. Sloan and I got engaged. Zach is my best man. He's earned it. The consulting firm made me junior partner, youngest in company history. Meanwhile, Ruth is still working retail living with our parents, paying me $400 a month for 3 years. My parents are stuck babysitting the monster they created without my bank account as a buffer. According to my Aunt Ruth, throws the same tantrums she used to throw at me, except now my parents can't call me to fix it. They're finally getting the full Ruth experience without a financial safety net. Zach ran into Ruth at the mall last week. She asked how I was doing. He told her I was doing great, then bought a game from her register and left a 1-cent tip. Life's good.